Siman Gimel Sa'if Beis Shmuel Sif Cotton Ches, and we'll learn the Beis Shmuel inside now. So it says the Beis Shmuel, Ploini Koyen Loive. In the case where a person wrote, where Adam wrote in a star that so-and-so, Yosef ben Shimon, borrowed money from his chaver, so in that case, it's considered a strong enough valid proof that it says HaKoyen in the star. It's a valid proof that the person is a Koyen. So hine ledas harashba v'yara'ah b'kehai gavna kshehu lashon ha'edim the edim kosim ploni kohen leve. Dafka, according to the Rashba and the Ra'ah, in such a case, when it's written b'lashon b'lashon ha'edim, in other words, it's written from the perspective of the edim, as I explained in the Hakdama, what that means. Mahani afilu liyuchsin. So in such a case, it is sufficient evidence to establish the person as a kohen vis-a-vis yuchsin. V'al kein loy mi boy b'shas elek shekosav ani ploini kohen lavisi. And therefore, the shas, the Gemara's question, is only in when it's written in terms of lashon haloive. Hoyel v'hu lashon haloive yesh lema ha'edim lo yeidu alav. Since it's written from the loive's perspective, you could say that the edim are not giving testimony about the status of this person. He wrote that he's a kohen, but that they didn't check into it. Elo heidu al guf al var, but rather all the edim were being made was on the actual event itself, that the money was borrowed. Aval Rambam svirale afilu im edim kosbu ploini kohen loive loy mahani liyuchsin. But the Rambam holds that even if the edim wrote, if it was lashon ha'edim, it's not sufficiently strong to determine yuchsin, and this, of course, is a machlokas between the Rambam and the Rashba. Because of Aran Atam, and the Ran explains the reason why it's not good enough, not strong enough to elevate the person to the status of a kohen vis-a-vis yuchsin. Because you could say that the edim wrote this because they saw him behaving as a kohen. They saw that he was accepted generally as a kohen. And he's rishon. But not that they did a birur kahuna, they did a proper investigation and determined beyond any doubt that the person is a kohen. But the Rambam would also maintain that if it's written from the loive's perspective, so it's a self-declaration, if he wrote, Ani ploni kohen, and I borrowed money from so-and-so, mahani letrumid rabbanon, it does help, according to the Rambam, for trumid rabbanon, ule nesias kapayim, and it does help for nesias kapayim. Dehoa sugya arinamik shuhu lashon haloive, because the sugya in Shas is also dealing from the perspective of the loive. V'lo mi boile ele le'inyan yuchsin, and the question is only whether it's acceptable for yuchsin, and the Rambam holds that it's not. But that's the question that's dealt with in the Gemara. V'lo le'inyan truma, the Gemara is not talking about truma. V'amechaber poisa kerambam, and the mechaber paskins like the Rambam, v'lo kerashba, and not like the Rashba. And the mechaber says it only helps for the things that it helps for kohanim bizman hazeh. In other words, being called to the Torah first, and nesias kapayim, it does not help with the yuchsin. So the Mechaber and the Rambam say that if it's written in lashon ha'edim, and even possibly if it's written in lashon ha'loive, it's good enough to elevate the person to the status of a kohen in connection bisman hazeh, in connection with truma and with nesias kapayim and so forth. But it is not strong enough to elevate him to yuchsin, and the Rashba would hold that it is strong enough. Ulapirus Tosfos Nishma im Ika Kan Shnei Yosef ben Shimon. Tosfos introduces this case of if they are the idea that if they're in a shtetl, in a village, in a town, a city, there are two people who have the same name, Yosef ben Shimon. Da'az yitztarchu ha'edim ledaktek. In such a case, the edim have to be particular and precise to identify imhu kohen, if he's the Yosef ben Shimon HaKohen, or if he's just the Yosef ben Shimon. Kedei lichtav siman mihu haloive, because this impacts the identification of who the loive is. Az yesh loimed amalin afilu leyuchsin. So then you could say that in such a case, says Tosfos, where there's two Yosef ben Shimons, that will cause the edim to be particular and precise in identifying the person as the kohen one and not the non-kohen, and therefore that is on the strength of that, that's a sufficient basis to elevate a person to kahuna in terms of yuchsin. Hu loshen haloive, and even if it was the loshen haloive, that would be the case in the case of two Yosef ben Shimons. Mio nira l'shita Rambam. However, it seems according to the shita of the Rambam, loy mahani liyuchsin, it wouldn't help to elevate the person to yuchsin. So the Rambam would still maintain, even in the case of two Yosef ben Shimons, that you wouldn't be able to elevate him to Yuchsin. Daha yesh leima mashe koisvin alav shul koyen mishum shuhu muchsik lekoyen. Because again, like the reasoning of the Ran, you could say that the reason that the Edim identify this person as a kohen is purely for identification purposes, not because they checked into the yichus. V'have siman me'alya mihu haloive. All it is a siman, an identification of who the loiva is, and not that it is any testimony about the loiva's status vis-a-vis yuchsin. In other words, all they're saying is this guy who behaves like a kohen and the community considers him a kohen, even though we haven't checked into his status as a kohen, but for identification purposes, only this one behaves like a kohen, not the other one, so it's sufficient behavior purposes, but not sufficient for yuchsin. The second one doesn't have that same that same behavior within the community. But they're not being made that the person isn't a bona fide kohen. Therefore, according to the Rambam, you couldn't go on that basis of the edus and the star. You could not be mile the person to yuchsin. Because the chazaka doesn't help for yuchsin. The fact that the person behaves like a kohen in the community is not sufficient proof that for yuchsin purposes. And according to the Rashba, certainly if there's two Yosef ben Shimons, even if there isn't two Yosef ben Shimons, the very fact that there's eidos in the shtar is sufficient evidence to be mile him legabe yuchsin. And so the Rashba would certainly hold in the case of two Yosef ben Shimons that eidos if it's written Lashon HaEdim is sufficient. ובזה נייחה מה שהיקשה בחלקס מחוקק מהה דאיסה בחושן משפט סימן מם טס סעיף זין. And we can now answer the question that the Chelkas Mechokek asks, that there's a potential conflict, or the halacha contradicts what's written in Choshen Mishpat and Siman Mem Tes. Shekasav Rav Ramah, that there in Mem Tes the Ramah writes, B'Shem Tshuvas HaRashba, in the name of the Rashba, Shnei Yosef ben Shimon, in the case of two Yosef ben Shimon, Ve'echad Aviv Chai, and one of the Yosef ben Shimons, the father is alive, Ve'echad Aviv Meis, and the other one, the father has died. So the two Yosef ben Shimons in the city could be identified by whether their father is living or not. Im Kosvu Edim Yosef ben Shimon Shlita, if the Edim write Yosef ben Shimon Sheyichri Le'orich Yamim Tovim, if they write that, Loive, that this Yosef ben Shimon, whose father is alive, borrowed money, then have siman shezesha aviv chai loive. It's a siman that this person's father is alive, and you're allowed to and he borrowed money. Umoitziim imenu, and based on the strength of that, you're able to be moitzim mammon from this Yosef ben Shimon shlita, the Shimon whose father was alive. Ve'im lashon haloive loy have siman. And if it was a lashon haloive, it wouldn't be a siman. So you see there that the Rashba is it differentiates there, consistent to his view here by Yuchsin. He differentiates between if there is a siman or if it's lashon ha'edim, in which case the edim would have been medaktek, or if it's lashon haloive, which wouldn't be accepted according to the Rashba. Vehikshe, and the Chelkas Mechokek asks, Lama moitziim mammon? How could you extract money from Yosef ben Shimon Shlita imhu lashon ha'edim, if it's the lashon ha'edim, v'lama lo mehanikan liyuchsin, and yet you can't do that over here? So according to the Rashba, it's consistent both by yuchsin and by dinei mamon. You can you accept if it's lashon ha'edim, you can extract money and you could be mile person to yuchsin. But here the Mechaber quotes, the Ramah quotes it over there, and here the Ramah doesn't say anything on the Mechaber. When the Mechaber says that for yuchsin that is not considered, it's not considered strong enough of a raya. So im hu lashon ha'edim, if it's even though it's lashon ha'edim, but according to what I've written, there's no question. The Shamle Inyan Siman, because there in Choshen Mishpat, where the whole issue there is if it's a siman, an identification of the person. Leidami hu aloive. We want to know who is the person who is the loive. So mahanim hu lashon ha'edim. So then, if it's lashon ha'edim, it's effective. To identify the person. Because this one who has a chazaka that his father is alive, he was the borrower. But here by yuchsin it wouldn't help. Even though they made that this person is muchsik, he behaves like a kohen, the community considers him a kohen. They are not testifying that they've done a bira yahadus, a bira kahuna, and they know for a fact that he's a kohen. That's not what the testimony is. The testimony is just a differentiator between the guy who's not a kohen. So therefore, in our case, it won't help for yuchsin. And in the case of Choshen Mishpat and Dinei Mamonos, it is strong enough to identify the person to be moitzim mammon from him. And the raya is actually the shtar itself. Shuv ra'isi b'shach sham kosav gam ken svarazu. Later on I saw that the shach over there in Choshen Mishpat also makes this differentiation. According to what I've written, according to the Rambam, even if it's the shtar is written from the perspective of the loive, the kosav shlita, and on his own he writes shlita, this is in Dinei Mamonos, moitziyim imenu. On that strength, you would be able to take. By Dinei Mamonos, it's good enough if the person says about himself, like Avi Shlita, my father may be blessed. Then Moitzim Mimenu, you could take the money that shtar is therefore does identify him, and you could take the money out of his hands. Dahal kol panim siman hu leda mi hu aloiver, because it's a siman to know who the borrower was, even though it's a self-declared siman. Because the Eidim wouldn't have signed to this loiver's testimony if they didn't know who the siman was. Because this was the purpose for which the Eidim signed. And they're made on everything that's written in the shtar, who the person is, how much the money was, what the date was, everything that's written above their signatures, they're made. But the Rashba says no, the Eidim are only saying that $100 changed hands, that so-and-so borrowed from so-and-so. That's all that they're being made on. Mishum hachi svirelei, for this reason the Rashba would maintain sham imhu lashon haloive ein matzim mammon. If the lashon of the loive, they wouldn't take mammon because the Eidim are not testifying on the totality of the shtar, they're only testifying on the essence of the shtar. So what about the case of if there's two Yosef ben Shimons, that where the Rashba says that you're allowed lahoitzi mammon, that you're allowed to take mammon from him, if he writes kohen, if the identifying mark of the Yosef ben Shimon in Choshen Mishpat, the identifying mark is that his father's alive, and the Rashba says that's sufficiently strong enough to identify him and to extract money from him based on that. In our case, what happens if there's two Yosef ben Shimons and the one of them's a kohen and one isn't? Would the Rashba accept that? So he wouldn't, obviously, because if it's written from the perspective of the loive, if it's written in lashon haloive, then the Rashba wouldn't accept it because he said that he'll say that the Eidim weren't medaktik on all the details of the shtar. So therefore, when he says, when the halacha, which the halacha is that Yosef ben Shimon HaKoyen is a sufficient identifying mark, that would be, according to the Rashba, only if it's written from Lashon HaEdim, where the Eidim are therefore medaktek on every detail of the shtar. V'loi Lashon HaLoiva, and not if it's written from the Loiva's perspective, then the Rashba would have to say that if he writes Yosef ben Shimon HaKoyen, that is not sufficient identification to be moitze mammon because it's the Loiva, and the fact that the Eidim signed on it does not mean that because they did so because they didn't sign on all the details, but only on the essential fact of the loan.